Well, welcome to another Montessori Lives, conversations with notable Montessorians. And this one's going to be quite different, very personal for me, because we're joined by Lourdes Martinez, who is my wife's aunt, and also a Montessorian for what, 40 years?
Since 1988.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, let's start off with how you are responsible for me and Olga meeting up. How did that happen?
Wow. What a surprise.
You
Um,
you got Olga interested in Montessori.
I remember the first day during my training that I invited Olga to be with me that day, and she visited the training center in Puerto Rico. And after that, something happened in her. Maybe she can share. Like she was trying to find a path, a professional path. And it was my husband, Isaac, who asked her to think about the Montessori training. And then she did, and everything happened. Like she went to New York, and then she got her training and her partner. And it was amazing.
Yeah. And Olga, there was something about that you noticed about the difference that Montessori makes.
Well, since we have a big family and I have so many cousins, it was, I remember asking Lourdes, why are your boys so different from all my other cousins? They're so polite, they're so respectful, so engaged and independent. And I just noticed that from a young age that they were just really different from the rest of my other, let's say, wild cousins. And that really caught my attention. And after having, and then visiting the school and just fell in love with the Montessori method there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to add that if I love Montessori for a special reason, is that one, like how my family, our lifestyle was so peaceful and so joyous and calm because Montessori helped us to develop a family of explorers and respectful children, but also adults that respect their own development. And they laughed every time Mark visit us because they had so many questions. And I remember, like, if you compared your way of raising children, if you're a Montessori family, you can tell the difference. Thank you, Olguita, for those words.
So how did you get involved in Montessori? Where did you discover Montessori?
Well, I was in my last semester at college, and I need to find a class to fill my requirements of credits. So there was this new class about introduction to the Montessori method. It was the method. And I enrolled, and I was like totally surprised and impressed positively when I saw all the materials, because it was like focus on materials. I was graduating from special education. So when I saw all those colors and especially the sensorial materials, I was like very impressed, and I was asking myself, and I did ask the professor, Annette Lopez, why we don't start with this during our college training. And then as a gift for the students, the Montessori School, Escuela del Pueblo Trabajador in Trujillo Alto in Puerto Rico, invited us to visit the school in the afternoon when there were no kids. And when I get into that small school, it was an old building, and I saw the inside, all the shelves, everything perfectly set, clean, the little furniture. And there was a rabbit Ted roaming around the classroom by itself. I, I was with my husband. We were dating for that time, and we looked at each other and we decided, like, when we have children, they have to go to a Montessori school. And there were no Montessori schools where I live in the east side of the island for that time. So that was my first impression with Montessori. And there were no training centers neither in Puerto Rico. So if you want to become a Montessori teacher, you have to go abroad, like Mexico or United States. And that first class, and I'm still in contact with Annette Lopez. Sometimes I always write her every now and then a thank you note for what she did. And she was also one of the precursors and that helped training centers to be in Puerto Rico. So that's the way I learned about Montessori. And things happened. One day I was reading the newspaper and I read that there were a Montessori training for the first time in the island. And that's changed everything in my life.
So that's where you trained. Tell us about your training.
It was the first time that AMI had a training in the island. My trainer is Eduardo Cuevas. I am very grateful for that experience. We were a small group of like less than 10 students, and it was life-changing. One of the things that I really enjoy was like a very strong philosophical fundamentals. It was not like the training in college that how to use the materials. It was what is behind the materials. And that made a great difference in how you look at the child. So it was very hard because I was trained to do things differently. But then when you start learning about the way children learn, everything was new for me, like the sensitive periods. And then you start looking at life like that, the human tendencies, and they're everywhere. And then you are understanding relationships in the environment and how it's a network, a system, the multi-age in the classroom, how rich that is to have older children working with younger ones. And then it was like a lab, like the training. There are no kids, you are behaving like the kids. But there was also very fulfilling. Like I remember during the lessons, we were always so quiet. And then after it was like a sacred moment. And sometimes it was like the aha moment. I remember that when they were doing like the decanomial, and one of the students say, so that was it? I could never understand that, not even in college. And now I understand that. Yeah. So I was always with like a child. I was always surprised during my training, always waiting for the practice time, because we can touch and we can explore. And even if we are adults, it was like that, like trying to think how a child respond to these first experiences. And having Eduardo Cuevas as a trainer also was a great experience for me. And the gift that after my training for 6 years, he was my consultant. So I feel that I have a very long training, and it was a blessing for me. Every time he visits my classroom, he can notice the little details, like change this, they are not ready for this, use these words. For example, in the island, we are very loud and very expressive. So I was very concerned about the quiet classroom, not always possible in the island because our personality. And one day he visited me and he asked me, like, why don't you start circle time in the morning, first thing? And instead of sitting on the floor, you ask them to bring the chairs to circle. And that changed everything. That exercise to look around for a chair, walk slowly to circle, and start setting a circle one beside the other. At the end, again, a sacred moment. They knew something special was going to happen, and then we start like shake your body, and it's like starting the silence game. So I was very lucky to have him for a very long time. And what else would you like to know about my Montessori experience?
So tell us about your work. Where did you work after training?
Good. Like I said, actually I I did my training not to become a teacher. I had my job in the public school, and I was expecting to go back to my job in special education because there were not schools where I lived. So I had my first child, and I remember I visited my doctor after he was born, and he said to me, well, when he get a little older, like 2 years, we have just started a Montessori school here in Fajardo. So I was impressed, like, there is a Montessori school in my hometown? And they say yes. So I started my training that same year because I wanted to be a Montessori mother. I want to have the skills to raise my kid. So I was not thinking about becoming a teacher, but during my training, we need to do some practice weeks. And I attended the school in Fajardo, in my hometown. It was a very small project, very rustic and simple, and very charming and very cute and cozy. So I was thinking about my child is going to be in this school, and the teachers were coming from Mexico and Brazil because we don't have trained teachers in the island for that time. So I did my practice there, and after I finished my practice during the summer, it was like June, they called me because the teachers had to go back to Mexico, so they were in need of a teacher, and they offered me the job. And I was like scared, like I was not being ready for this, but I say yes, and I start to work there like the lead teacher. It was a group of, I think, 30 kids, 25 to 30. And it was really great, a great experience. I remember when I said for the first time the classroom, and after you put everything in place, I took that time to look around and just breathe and get ready to have children around. And it was really a great experience. And I'm still friends with those families and with the kids. And some of them, I'm so grateful because now they are parents and their kids are also attending the Montessori schools.
So this is Elena's school, Casa de los Niños.
In Fajardo, yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
Casa
still
de los
there.
Niños. It's still there, and some of my relatives still work there because that is a blessing. After Olga, who was the first one to follow my step, there are more Montessori teachers in the family. And actually, Liane, my daughter, she's starting a Montessori training also, and she has been working as a teacher assistant here with me. And it's a very natural Montessori teacher.
You should really explain how many of your family you've inspired to become Montessori teachers. First of all, there was Olga.
Yes, after Olga was Olga's sister, Iris. Then it was Yesenia, and
Jerian.
Annalie, Jerian, Jerian, and now Liane. Yep. We are a Montessori family, and it's great. I remember one day you were visiting us with beef in Luquillo, and Lian was a toddler. And we were talking at the kitchen table, and Lian started getting ready to make herself hot cocoa. And she got her tray and the milk and everything. And I remember that we were talking, and Beef just stopped talking, and he was looking at her. And I asked him, "Is there something wrong?" And he was like, "No, this is a lesson." And it was like the way she just get everything ready and clean after she took her cocoa. So is that is the blessing of being a Montessori family. The the house is full of rocks and pebbles and art. I remember when we lived in the countryside in Ceiba, and Ileana, my sister, was living with us, and it was dusk, and she came inside and she was pale, and she asked me, "What are you teaching your children in school?" And I was like, "Why are you asking me that in that tone?" And she said, "Because I was outside with David, and he just said to me, 'Oh, the dusk, the sunset looks like an impressionist painting. It looks like a Monet.'" And he was 3 years old, and she was like, "What are you teaching them?" And through the years, every time David get to be close to a Van Gogh or a Monet, he will take a picture and send it to me like, "Hey mom, I'm still feeling the same happiness when I see the impressionist painters." That is about Montessori. It's about getting them ready to explore and enjoy the world. And it's a different education. And also being a traditional teacher like I was, because I work in traditional schools, I will invite everyone to have like some um, principles, a little knowledge about how Montessori does things, because as a teacher, you will have new tools, and you will have inspiration about how to reach to the child when it's a different or a difficult, like they say, child. It's because maybe we are not offering what they need. And I remember after working in the Montessori school, I was invited to work in a traditional school, and I say yes for a while. And I remember that I said my Montessori corner in the classroom. So there was a line where they can go and walk the line, and shelves with different materials. And it was like very relaxing for them if they need that peaceful time, or if they need to uh, feel relaxed before starting a test or doing something, they will have the Montessori corner. And it's not like you have to be a Montessori teacher to love Montessori. No, you can be a Montessori teacher even in the traditional setting.
So it's different now in Puerto Rico, right? With Montessori, there's a lot more Montessori, including public Montessori schools.
Yeah, it's working, it's happening. The public schools are doing, I think, a great job. Um, in the beginning, it was kind of the transition. It was kind of difficult for the teachers, but these new generations that are Montessorians because they wanted to is making a great job there. I remember when I was visiting you in California, and during the long trip, the lady who was in the plane sitting next to me was a school principal in Puerto Rico. And we were talking together, and then she said, when she discovered that I was a Montessori teacher, that she was trained to transform her school into a public Montessori school, and she was like not liking it. She said that it was really difficult because the teachers were reluctant to change everything. But that was in 2008, a long way, and now it's different. One of our peers in the school in Fajardo. She was a school principal in a public Montessori school, and communities have been changed and impact. And now they have a very active community beyond the school. So it's changing, and it's giving the kids a great opportunity, like that families can have that Montessori experience in their with their children.
Yeah. You know, we all know how that there are obstacles to doing good Montessori everywhere. What are some of the notable challenges that you've had in your Montessori journey?
Okay.
What kind of obstacles have you encountered?
Obstacles. I see obstacles as learning experiences and challenges, good challenges. And I think that if you have a very strong parent education program, that helps a lot to deal with the normal situations that you will have in the classroom. I remember when I started working, some families were really special. I remember specifically a family that has always a complaint that I was doing something wrong. And they will ask for a meeting, like every 2 weeks. They need to meet with me and say that they were not happy. And it was my first year. And as a traditional teacher, you don't need to explain what you're doing to the parents because everybody knows what a teacher is supposed to be doing. But when you are a Montessori teacher, it's like, why you say she cannot use that map? Because I am paying you because I want her to use those materials. So it's all about education. Like, well, because we have an order, this is very carefully designed, and the kids, and then you have to explain how we work as teachers. So I think one of the great obstacles is dealing with parents that don't understand the way we work. But once you do that, it's very smooth. Obstacles, for example, as a professional, if you this can sound a little strange. If you are trained by AMI and then a AMS teacher come to be your co-lead, it can be the end of the world sometimes. It's like, no, this is not the way we do that. But I was very lucky to meet you guys, Olga and Mark, because I could see that there is not a great difference. It's just like trying to understand each other and enrich each other point of view. So I think, like, if you decide not to go on with that fight and work together, it can happen instead of being like fighting a way to do things. Try to find a happy medium and negotiate, and things work. I am actually very grateful to be working here in United States in an AMS school and be very close to the AMS family. And it's very rewarding when they know that I am AMI. It's like kind of strange that we can be friends. But that was one of the obstacles I think that I have to deal with. But I decided not to go on with the fight. I decided to be friends, and that really make a great difference. And I think those were the greatest obstacles when you start a project like we did in Fajardo. It was like helping the adults to understand how we work. And at the end, I remember that family that I told you just a moment ago that were always asking me to explain. Actually, they are one of my best friends. And I think that is like a triumph, because instead of looking at the parents as antagonists, it's like we are in this journey together and we can make it happen for the good of the children. And I was so blessed also to include children with special needs, and that was like a great gift for the community also. And I needed to work with the parents too when I start like including Down syndrome kids or kids with other needs. And I remember one of the family called me to the office and asked an explanation, because the kids in the Montessori Casa de Niños, they are too young and they will copy those behaviors. And I was like, well, it's about community and real life society. And at the end, after the 3-year cycle, that father was very grateful, because how compassionate the kids could be with the children with special needs. So I think that that was my challenge. I don't feel that I have a lot of challenges in my professional development as a Montessori teacher. It's just about being patient and always be ready to explain. And that means that we have to be, as professionals, always reading Maria Montessori, always going back to the books, always doing the research, because every time I am in a meeting or I am working with parents and they're a workmate as a witness with me, they say to me, every time you say Maria Montessori wrote or Maria Montessori said, that changes everything. It's like, it's not like you are doing this because you want to, it's because there is a reason why you're doing things like that. So be always reviewing the books, always learning and asking, like looking through her eyes. I love an anecdote that she was invited to a classroom because the children were misbehaving, and the lead guys were like asking her what to do, and she answered, I don't know. And she sat just to observe. And sometimes I have to be humble and I have to say, after 40 years, I don't know. I have to sit down and take notes and observe, and then go back and read the discovery of the child, of the secret of childhood, and try to find there an explanation. And then I will find it. I will always find an idea that will help.
That's interesting. Somebody who I met once who knew Mario said that Mario used to say that the truth is in the books, not in the training programs.
Wow, yes. I agree. And I have the books. I have the book in my classroom. So sometimes when I have a difficult day, and still after 4 years, I have difficult days that I have to sit down and breathe and be calm and read my notes. What happened here? Who started this? What triggered that behavior? And after trying to discover, I will go back to the book, and I will sometimes, like people open a sacred book in the page, I will find the answer right there. I can trust that that will happen. And it's so, for me, it's like a joyful moment every time I read her after so many years, and there's something new, or there's something that is still a mystery. I have to read that and go back and try to understand and read it again, and then think about the kiss. Oh, that was what happened 30 years ago, and it's still happening now. So that means that she is still updated. She's not something from the past. She discovered something that is still a light to guide not only schools, is to guide humanity to another level of development, to another level of not just education, of being human.
Mm. So you're working in an AMS school now.
Yes.
Whereabouts? And can you talk about why you left the island and where you
Um,
ended up?
um, yes. My son, he lived here, and when I visit him several times, he will always drive us around town. And there was this little yellow old house with a sign, the Montessori School, Children House Montessori School in Camden. And every
It's
time
Camden, Maine.
Camden, Maine, every time we visit him, he will always say, "Mom, you can work here." Because something that I am really grateful in life is like my children are very proud of their Montessori mom. And that is really very rewarding. So he was like, "Mom, you can come here and you can work in this school." And I was like, I'm just thinking about retiring in the island. Not in my wildest dream. I thought about working in the States, but then life changed and I came here and there was an opening for a job as a floater and teacher assistant. And I said, I can do that. I love to work with children. And if I am the assistant, I can play more than the lead teacher. So I say, yes, I can do that. And then I came and they were like very happy to interview me and they offered me the lead teacher position. And I say, no, thank you. I just want to be an assistant and I have the language situation. I was very concerned. So I started working as an assistant for Casa de Niños for primary in an AMS setting. And my peers, they are delightful. This is a great, peaceful, loving community. And I was so welcome that I felt very free. And they were always asking me, what else can we do? And if they have situations, how would you do? And they gave me the freedom to help with the setting up the classroom. And I started explaining how this can be here or not, or maybe this is not a Montessori material. Maybe this is something that for tradition we have included. And those little details start to make the difference in the classroom. And they discover like, oh, it's because AMI do things differently. And again, it was like how to do things. And I was like, no, it's great the way you do it. But sometimes it's just a little detail that you can add to the lesson. And because some children need different way to see things. So I was so welcome in the AMS community that I don't feel like an alien. And it's very nice. It's a great atmosphere to work here. And finally, after 4 years, they invite me again to be a lead teacher. And I did that for the past year. And I am very happy to be back in that role. And I am very blessed. And of course, what can I offer to the community? Besides my old age and my experience, I started a Spanish club. And the kids were so happy with the Spanish club that now we are giving like Spanish classes in all the classrooms. I go to toddlers and to the elementary and the primary classrooms, and the kids are dancing bomba and plena and merengue, and they are starting to use the words. So I'm very happy when I walk through the toddler classroom and they just go running to the door and they say, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" And being human in a Montessori atmosphere and in a Montessori environment is very rewarding. It's a gift. it's a very joyful way to live.
So you're working in an AMS school. You were trained by Eduardo Cuevas, who's one of the great AMI trainers. Can you
Yes.
say that, is there a difference in any way between the AMS approach and the AMI approach?
Well, I don't want to get into those waters, but sometimes it happened like, for example, uh, the details. I love practical life and sensorial. For me, if I have to do something for the rest of my life, just one thing I will ask to do: practical life and sensorial, because I like the way those little minds start to feel independent, and the way they feel that they can do it. That is the smile and the repetition. I like that.
Mm.
And one day I asked the teacher, when I was as an assistant working with with my workmate, I asked her, where are the dressing frames? And they answered me, in a closet. And I like, what? Why? And they said, because we don't use that. That is for toddlers. And I asked her, can I start working the dressing frames with them? And she said, well, if you want to. So I brought the dressing frames, and the kids were loving the work. And they start practicing, and they will make lines waiting for the bottom dressing frame.
Mm.
And she was impressed. What I note, and again, I don't want to get into those waters, but what I note is like they were focused on language and math.
Mm.
And some practical lives lessons were like optional. So I explained to her why practical life is so important for your work as a teacher and for the children. So now the dressing frames are in the classroom all the time, and they are available. And then one day she said, I have never seen an adult so happy using that materials until I see you.
Mm.
So I got a notion like during their training, that was not that important. For example, I've had been working with practical life and the Pinterest trend now. Like, it's not about putting cute trays with cute materials. I think that sometimes we just need to go to the basics and see what they really need to do, and what Maria Montessori wrote and decided that were the practical life lessons. Let's go back to that. And I think that is a difference for me about the trainings. For example, I have noticed that not just here, but I have noticed like sometimes a lead teacher will ask the assistant to be in charge of the practical life shelves. And the assistant don't have a training. So they will go to the Pinterest online for ideas, and they can see cute, but sometimes kids go there because they don't have anything more important to do, and that's the only thing available. So I think that is one of the difference, like sensorial. I remember one day I was doing the constructive triangle lesson, and again, the lead teacher just asked me, why you do that and how? Because I have never get that attention during the lesson. And I think it's like the energy that I felt that my trainer put on practical life and sensorial was very serious. It was like, this is really important. We will go to language and we will go to math, when they are ready and they will be exposed. But we need to work this really seriously, like AMI called like a scientific pedagogy. So I think that might be a difference in trainings, but I cannot tell because I have not been present in an AMS training. You should know better. I don't know, but there's something about practical life and sensorial that I feel that maybe it's not that seriously presented, and some fundamentals about philosophy or theory. Why do we do this way? How to do the task analysis, how to take so many steps doing a thing, how we go slow motion. Sometimes I don't feel like my peers that were trained by AMS have that sense, but it's my perception. Maybe I'm wrong.
So it sounds like you're talking about the importance of going back to the philosophy in the books and really understanding why we do things rather than just learning how to use the materials.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I want to show, I brought one of my albums to show. Can I do that?
Okay. Yeah.
This was the way we were trained. It was by hand.
Lourdes, I remember, if I'm right, that when you finished your albums, your car was stolen. Is that a memory that I have when I was a child?
Yes, it was at the end of my training. My car was stolen from the training center, and I was scared because I just finished all my albums, and we were getting ready for the test, and they stole the car with the albums. And I was devastated because you know how AMI is. It was April, and in May we have to get everything ready, the materials, and my trainer said to me, you have to write like this. You have to write your albums again, and you have to bring that for the test. And I was like, I cannot do that. I am very proud of my albums because we have to present, we have to write the lessons, and he will send that back with a lot of red corrections, and we have to handle those the next week with the new ones. So I was like, I can't believe he's asking me that I have a few weeks to make my 5 albums again. So 2 weeks later, the police called me that they found my car. My car was destroyed. And I remember that I asked the policeman, I don't care about the car. I want to know if there is a box with 5 black albums in the trunk. And the police said, let me check. And he said, yes, there is a box. And I was like, oh, yes, that's all that matters. So I could have my albums back. Wow. And I didn't have to write them again. Oh. But it's something about the training, because we have to write. So we have to see the lesson, we have to write the lessons, we have to handle that to the trainer. He will send it back with all, you wrote that right hand, but it's the left hand. You said that it has to be we start at the right, but then no, we have to start at the left. And you have to write that is the pencil grip. So many details, and you have to write that back by hand and deliver that again. So at the end, he will say yes, but all the times you have to write, rethink, rewrite. You are like really learning. You have to sit down with the materials, do the lesson, and start writing again. Mm. And I have my albums always in my classroom, always. I will sometimes I have a doubt, and I will go and check my albums. And then with technology, people start like doing the floppy disks and everything. Yeah. And I still have this in my classroom. So up to this day, I have to sit down and think, what did not happen today? like it should, and I will go and visit again my albums and practice again, still doing that because I want to do the things right.
Would you say, Lourdes, that you, in your training, you were trained to think for yourself like a scientist, or were you trained to do as you're told and follow the training exactly how it was given to you because that's the way we do it? Or were you trained to think, for yourself and observe and
Both, like the way you use the materials, it has to be like a prescription. That's the way she does it, and that's the way we have to repeat. um, and that's why I was very concerned about doing things right. That's why I have my album with me, because some of the concepts is like scientific pedagogy. It's like doing an experiment. You have to follow the steps, and then by observing and by the way you engage in the relationship with the environment and the children and their needs, is when you have the freedom to start doing the fixes that you need to make things happen or work. uh, then then you have to balance. You know how to do it perfectly described by the training, and then you have to go with the trial and error in your own life, like dividing the lesson in parts or changing just a little detail, um, and then have have your training or your trainer in your mind every time you do something. Think about how he will do it if he is here in the classroom. For example, this is an anecdote. For my training, the sand tray for sand paper letters is not on the shelf. It's in a closet for the child that really show you that needs something else. And one day I placed that on the shelf. And that day my trainer visited my classroom and he asked me, why is that on the shelf? That is for a child that needs, specifically for just one child that needs that transition. And I took it back, put it in the closet, and did it like he said. And there is a reason. So it's like trial and error. And then I noticed with the time that, yes, if you leave that on the shelf, some kids will just be deviated to do that without any need. So there is like a very subtle balance between do things like you were told to do it and have the freedom to experiment, but don't go too far. Don't add so many things on the shelf because you think that you are very wise and you got it better than Maria Montessori. It's like really think when you need to add something as a transition material or change things because there is a child that needs that, but don't make it like your regular practice.
Do you think children have changed in the time that you've been a teacher?
Yeah, and especially this generation after the pandemic, what I feel they change, they bring different, is a level of anxiety and also parents like trying to compensate the lost. During the pandemic, socializing was different, was difficult. And now we have like very fragile souls in the classroom, very sensitive. That's for this generation that comes after the pandemic. But yes, children have changed a lot. Like I remember when kids came inside a Montessori classroom in the 90s and how impressed they were. Those hands, the way they handled the pin tower or the knobs uh, of the cylinders, they were ready to do that because they had been playing in the garden or they had been playing with little toys at home. But now they are doing this movement and they will have a book and they will do this movement like it's a screen. So I think they have changed. And I go to the basic and I try to bring my excitement to the lesson. Like I will close my eyes, I will touch like very consciously the materials. I will be very slow the way I hold the materials, and they will start copying that and they will be enjoying it. And I can then sit down and see how they are really going slowly, setting the knobless cylinder on the table and just looking at the differences. Then I know that it is happening. It is still happening. It's the same mind, it's the same child, but it comes from the adult, the excitement to connect the child to those simple materials that we have in the classroom that are not moving, that are not bright, and don't have the sound as they are used to with the screens. So we have that challenge to make Montessori important, and I don't know if this word exists in English, like pertinent, like yes, it takes time, but they will get there. They will get there.
Do you have a favorite book that you think new educators, young educators should read?
Yes, my favorite book is The Secret of Childhood. I have that, like I said, next to my chair in the classroom. But I think that the absorbent mind is also a gift. Even if you are not Montessori, those are my favorite books from Maria Montessori.
Are there
And
any areas you think Montessori needs to be updated to better fit the modern world?
updated.
Yeah. Or do you think it is still 100% applicable to the modern world?
Yeah, I will go old school with that one. I think that anything we need is there. Like I said, I still read the books, I still read my albums, and the answer is there. It's just to be creative and humble enough to think how to bring that to this world. Because I think children have the same needs. The change has changed a lot, but we are still working for peacemakers. We are still working to give the children that quiet space, that silent corner where they can learn and where they can build by themselves. I think that children has been attacked with so many information like we are, that they need to get to that inner self by working, by taking that quiet, gentle atmosphere that a prepared environment can offer them. I don't think that Montessori has to be updated. I think that we need to go again to the basics, but knowing that their mind has a different velocity. They are faster and they need to go slowly. And we can train the brain to go slowly by walking the line. And like I said, let's go back to practical life and enjoy the joyous blessing of the simple things that make them independent, that give them the control of movement and the joyous activity that can help them to concentrate and to go by another rhythm. And I think that that is a gift that Montessori has. There are other styles, there are other approach that give them the children more time, playful time, but the working time, we use the word work. Actually, yes, they are working. They are building neural paths in their brain, repeating the lessons. So let's give them that gift of time, all the time they need to repeat and enjoy. And I think that we don't need to update. We need to rethink what we are trying to have like an outcome from the Montessori education. And for me, is having a child that can stop and enjoy the sunset like an impressionist painting.
Lourdes, what I get from talking to you is that the kind of adult that can lead children there to that inner quiet is the adult who's found that inner quiet in themselves. What do you think is the secret of the transformation of the adult?
Wow. I think I am a peaceful adult, and I think I got that from Montessori. I practice in my life the silent game, just with me. I think that's something that you have to work for yourself. You cannot give what you don't have. And I am also very respectful of the children that are in my journey and my path, and I acknowledge them as a divine design. So when you have that feeling that you're doing something sacred, when you have the opportunity to touch the soul of a child, you do things differently. You put all yourself in that. And I have read Maria when she described the guide and when she described our role, like knowing what is our role in this prepared environment. We are just an element in this system. And the most important element is not the guide, it's the child. That makes a difference. It's like you start doing things differently because you see the world with different eyes. And yes, Montessori teachers, we need to be specials.
Wow. Does anybody have a comment or a question for Lourdes?
I just want to say, Lourdes, hi, Lourdes. I don't know if you've seen the chat, but here Sarah Jane, who is one of the participants, she wrote that she visited your school in Puerto Rico in San Juan. It was in 169 Avenida de Diego, in San Juan. ¿Tú tenías una clase ahí?
No, not in San Juan, in Avenida de Diego.
Sarah Jane, yeah. Okay. She wrote it in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I went there, it was in the central city. It was quite close to where the, it may not be there, but now, but it was close to where the Hilton Hotel was or is.
Oh, that has to be in Condado.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think there are still some Montessori school there. I was not a teacher there, but they were really cute schools.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just so impressed because it's a poor state of America and to territory, and to see what they were doing with not a lot of money, and there's always a little bit of unrest there, and the staff just worked so hard. I was just very impressed.
When I visit some schools in the poor areas of the island, I remember, and I cherish this memory, there was this school in Rio Piedras. They have 2 different primary classrooms, and they have to share the materials. One week, one of the classroom will have all this language materials, and the next week they will swap materials with the other classroom. So yes, the teachers in the island are very creative, and they can transform little spaces in beautiful schools. And it's all about the human resource that can make the difference.
Mm-hmm. Cara says she'd like you to adopt us to be our Montessori auntie as well.
That is so sweet. Of course. Of course. Anytime. Yes. Yes, please.
We had to come and visit.
Yes, I would love to talk with Montessorians around the world and share my anecdotes. And yes, I love to help teachers to feel that they are doing great, and share ideas, because it's not easy. When I started, I was alone in the island. So I know how good it is to have a peer that makes your life easier, and to let you know that things are happening and you're doing a great job. So you can ask for my email and we can chat.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Lourdes, it's been such a pleasure, and you really need to come out and visit us.
Oh, that's sweet. I will love to do that. Yes.
Well, thank you for your time. This has been
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Interview.
Yes. Well,
thank you
bye.
for your time.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Good night.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good
Good
night.
night. Thank you.
Bye.